Good evening. We are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. No, we're gonna give people a minute or two to get in here. But yes, thank you for being here, guys. I appreciate it. I know our guest appreciates it as well. So who's all here first? Um, wait, hold on. Who's first here? A name of some sort. Oh, well, congratulations on being first. We'll get to that question though. But yes, being first is what always matters. Mr. Squiggles, yeah, you're sorry, you're not first. Goalie, hello. Mike L, hello. 4M, hello. Bye, Franz. How are you doing? Megan, hello. Hi, Parallax. Roseman, or Rosman Ranch, hello. Clown World, Jim, how are you doing? Bye, Franz, saying, I've not seen Brenna in a while. She appreciates it. Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while either. Hope she's doing well. That's a shame. Hello. I know you're going to appreciate this one a lot. This tonight's show. So guys, we're going to give people another couple minutes to come in, but yes, Matt is here. Matt is waiting. He's raring to go. So if you guys do have questions, don't be afraid to fire them out. While we're talking, certainly Matt's going to have questions about what was going on with him, and I'm going to be trying to answer those. We're going to go through some of the stuff that's out there. We're going to talk about some of the things in his book that he's written. And by the way, we may as well plug that right now. You can get it available on Amazon. It is showing up right. It is Emily, a staged suicide in Ohio. It is on Kindle, and it's actually a very nice read. It's only how many pages is it? It's only 186 pages total, but that includes all the Kindle pages. So it's not a bad read. I think it's very interesting. I think it gives you a lot of his, it's not just about that, but it's also meeting Emily, kind of going through everything, and then the trials and tribulations of what we know him for. So I think it's a very good read. If you guys get a chance to pick it up, definitely do. I think you'll like it. Mr. Benke, he watched his whole trial. Yeah, well, we'll get to all of that. We'll get to that. I did want to say, guys, once we get going, though, if you guys do have questions, certainly if you super chat it, it'll make it easier because that gets collected and I can keep track of those a lot easier and just start ripping through them. So don't be afraid to do that. And actually, yeah, we'll pin this as well. We'll make that the pin message, actually. There's the link up top if you guys want it. Does it have pictures? Yeah, there are pictures in it. There are pictures in it. It's not a picture book. You can't color, but there are pictures, and I think the pictures are good the way they're placed. I can't pin both. Well, that's my fault then. That's my fault. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to give it a couple more minutes there, but I think in the meantime, I think without much more ado, though, if he's ready, I think we're going to bring him on and we can talk a little bit. Are you ready, Matt? Give me a thumbs up if you're good to go. Okay, I think you are. All right, guys. So I guess we'll bring it on, but we'll get everybody in here. All right. So here we go, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Matheau Moore. Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing well. So yes, guys, if you recognize him, we had quite a bit. We talked about Matheau Moore quite a bit last year in the end of August, and if you guys remember, he was on trial. And just bring up one of our things that I had made when I do the trials, my thumbnails. If you guys remember him, this is Matheau Moore, and this is the case. If you guys remember, we were going along with it, and this is obviously from day 7, one of many days. Oh, somebody likes your hat already. But yeah, you were on trial in Delaware County, Ohio, just outside of Columbus,
That's right.
And yeah, you're definitely in a position very few people have ever been in. You know, certainly being a defendant, but more importantly, um, being able to say you were. I think at least that you were vindicated. I think that I think ultimately the jury did vindicate you on that. And by the way, we do have another kind of I think a special guest as well coming in at about 8:45 tonight. So we're gonna keep that one quiet because I think that one actually is really cool how that one was gonna work out. Um, but yeah, guys, if you have questions, don't be afraid to put them up there. Like I said, if you can do it as a super chat, that'll help a lot. But yeah, Matt, do you want to kind of tell everybody about yourself a little bit? You know, before all of this started, you were sitting there living in Westerville. You were just Matt Moore doing your thing. What was Matt Moore
Living
before this all happened?
living a quiet life, minding my own business. Um, I had met Emily in 15. We dated for a year. I moved away back to Las Vegas. That's where I was originally from, and we ended up the time away from each other. We decided that maybe we should give it another shot, and I came back, and we got married in 18, I believe, 18 or 19. We were married for a little under 2 years before she went missing.
And what were you doing? Like, when you were back here in Ohio? Were you working? What were you doing?
My mother passed away, and she left me an inheritance, and it was enough for me to retire, really. I was in the casino business for 25 years in Las Vegas, and it wasn't like I was retired, but it was I could not have to worry about working in the casino business anymore. So
Oh, cool. So, what did you do in Vegas, if I could ask?
I was a croupier. I was a dealer,
Oh, okay. That's in craps, right? With
dice
the
and
with the
blackjack. Yeah, yeah.
okay. Well, I didn't know they called them croupiers as well. Okay. Yeah, actually, I guess what was your favorite casino to work at?
I worked at the Hard Rock for like 15 years. That was by far the most fun casino in town.
Okay.
Best job. That was a lot of fun.
Now I know I didn't necessarily see this part in the book, but if you had to rate the weather, where's the weather better? Do you like the snow in Ohio, or do you like Las Vegas?
It's Vegas is it's nice year round. It's really nice here.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I figured you were going to say that, but you never know. You might actually say like, no, I really did like I did
No,
like it.
I'm not much of a winter guy.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, I think we get started though. I think we got a lot of people in here right now. So I guess we'll start from the beginning. You know, Emily's missing, and you go to the police. It's been 48 hours, and you contact them, and I can't believe from reading your book. They basically say, well, have fun on Facebook finding her. The good luck on social media.
Yeah, that's I guess I was interrogated within 48 hours, and it was as I'm leaving, after them not getting what they wanted out of me, after accusing me of murder. I'm just as I'm leaving, they're like, hey Matt, good luck on social media, and we don't need a body to get a conviction. That's what I was just, it's what do you do? I mean, it was like shocking. But all that, I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but now I do. Now I know what they're.
Sure. I mean, and I know you talked about it in the book, but how you mentioned it like I'm a good guy. I don't do anything wrong, and just to get thrown right into that instantly, they see you as the bad guy. That like you said, I'm not a criminal. I don't own criminals. I mean, that had to be a heck of an experience to see that. Wow, these guys think I am a bad guy now.
It's just you can't really describe it. It's I had a certain amount of faith in government. I mean, why would they be doing this to me? I didn't understand why they'd be until you go through it, I've always kind of been on the side of the guys in blue, sort of. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't understand what this. I'm not a criminal. I don't
Mm-hmm.
steal. I don't cheat. I don't lie. I don't run around doing. I'm just a regular tax-paying guy. Why are they doing this to me? In the beginning, you don't know, but as now that I've gone through it, I understand that it's more about money than anything
Mm-hmm.
else. So it's a business, really. So they took my case, Emily's case, as an opportunity to do what they do, which is
No,
something that's hard to explain. If you read the book, it kind of helps you with that. Why I feel that way.
yeah, no, and I think your book does a very good job of explaining it and explaining, your interactions with Emily's family and her friends going on with it. The ones I think were I get that people started to accuse you, but the Kramers, I think that was, I don't know about you, but to me, that seemed like that would have been some of the deepest cuts that they have the sign up across from your house and.
Yeah, it's like the community turned.
Mhm.
Not turn. I don't think they were. I wasn't there that long, but I mean, for them to make that judgment, such a harsh judgment with no evidence of it, just
Yeah.
listen. I'm sure the police had everything to do with that.
Yeah.
With the way they would approach people, how they would come up and start talking to them, and it made it real easy for them to and they use that. Law enforcement uses that type of thing against you. To
Sure.
use that pressure to try to get you to do something stupid or confess.
Yeah. And I mean, how hard was it, especially like your neighbors, when they're doing this and they're outright calling you a murderer? It's so hard not to want to say, you guys are completely wrong. You have no idea, but you can't because, like you said, they're waiting for you to do something.
There, you can't speak to the
Mhm.
media. You can't speak to the police. It's
Mhm.
and that's why they're doing it. They want you to come out and start talking
Mhm.
for a multitude. It's a complex thing. It's not like it's one
Sure.
thing, but yeah, it's the pressure from the public that is created by police to get you to create the narrative that they want to create it's horrifying. It should be illegal. They shouldn't be allowed to do it, but they're able to. They're able to go into the public and spread dissent through insinuation, whatever, lies basically. But they can do that
Mhm.
because I think it helps in cases that are. If I was guilty, it catches guilty people. It gets guilty people to confess. But there really
Sure.
isn't anything safe. There's no safeguard for people that aren't guilty. So,
Well, and yeah, and I think that goes very much with like what you talked about. You're like, well, I'm a good guy and I'm a normal citizen, so the police only go after bad guys. They never get it wrong. They never kind of fudge it, whether intentionally or just incompetently. So, yeah,
you would
I
I mean, yeah, you just never think it's going to happen to you. You hear about things like that, but then
mhm.
you're like, that just doesn't. How often does that happen?
Yes.
Happens
Yeah.
a lot. Happens quite often.
Oh, it does and does. And I mean, I will tell you, and I've mentioned this before on here. Um, before I went to law school, I didn't I had I think it's probably similar to you in the way I viewed the state and whatnot. Going through law school, kind of the same way, but once I really started practicing law, I really my faith in the state and faith in government has just
That's
has been
that's that's an interesting. That was a question I did want to ask you. At some point, you do realize what it's all about. That it's not about
Mhm,
ultimately guilt or innocence. It's about whatever it
mhm.
is that they're doing. I mean, that must be tough for a guy, someone that goes into what you do. And then
I mean, yeah, it does because there are times where I've dealt with people where I don't think they committed any crime and they've been accused of something. But I've also, and I'd say the more common thing is though, yes, they did something, but it's not what they've been accused of. And what they did was relatively minor, but they're facing something so much worse. And that's I'd argue just as bad because if you've done something wrong, okay, fine, be held accountable for what you've done. but it should be just that. It shouldn't be, oh well, he stole something, but hey, if we give him charged with burglary, it still counts because he's stealing something. That's
It so you're a DA, right? And eventually that you're going to be putting people that are innocent away. You have to. It's part of it's collateral damage, right? It's just sometimes it's going to happen. No system is perfect. Sometimes there are going to be people on death row even that didn't do it. And it's that way on the other side too. It's defense attorneys are getting people off that they know that are guilty, but it's just part of the system. It's part of what this thing is. I would think that it would be hard for a lawyer when he finally kind of comes around to that and be like, well, what am I doing here? I mean, is this worth it?
It does at times. It does at times. It does. It's very, it does get at you. But I will say the times where you do achieve that good result,
Right.
that just outcome,
right?
It really makes it worth it.
I would certainly want to be on a defense attorney's side rather than the other side of that, because I don't think I could put an innocent man away knowingly. I don't think I could do it in the name of the greater good. Well, this is the system we have. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to have to put an innocent guy away once in a while to get as many bad guys as I can get away. I think that would be tough.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what I would say is, because I worked as an assistant prosecutor for a while, and I worked in where Champaign County is. It's nearby. I was always worried, in the back of my mind, it's something that's always there. Is like, did this guy do it? Am I, how sure am I? Now, I could say, thankfully, in my time where I've done it, in the other county I've been in where I've done it, I didn't have a question about that. I've been, what was there was presented, especially if they're, a lot of times, and a lot of times people do tell on themselves. They'll do something dumb, they'll get caught. So I don't, you're like, okay, I don't have to worry about that. He got caught, they found him there, they found stuff on him. So usually that's not an issue. But yeah, I was always worried. I'm like, what happens if I do get one of those? I mean, certainly I would never willingly do it, but yeah, in the back of my mind at some point that could happen.
Do they do you get so focused on your job that you can kind of overlook that? Like you're so focused in on.
Well, I think there are prosecutors who do sell out and do become corrupt and just solely focus on getting wins and are solely focused on whatever result they think is just. But I do think I think there's just a lot of times that they looking at the evidence and to them it's clear what it is. And I think that there's a little more of that. Well, I've seen this a million times. This is just like every other one, which I think that just becomes our humanity at some point where this looks like every other domestic violence. This looks like every other drug deal. I've seen this a million times. Like, yes, these aren't my pants. That type of thing. It's like, I've heard it a million times before. So no, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying that. I think it's just as easy to get cynical on that side, but that's the side that shouldn't be cynical. That side should always be challenging.
Right.
And you mentioned the word garbage throughout the book. And it's garbage.
It's a word that if your spouse ever goes missing and you start to speak to other people who's have had spouses that have gone missing and you speak that word, you don't need it explained. It's something it's literally just, because we all go through the same thing. Literally, it's a playbook that law enforcement opens the book. And it's in the book. I mentioned it before. I didn't know what it was. It was just paranoia. I didn't know. But once I started speaking to other people that had been through the same thing as me, as I was, they just encapsulate it in this thing called garbage.
Well, but there's also, I don't know, you've probably heard this before, the concept of like garbage in, garbage out, where, especially like and I think in your case, it's a great example of, you had the police with you. And when they were trying to talk about the wood sorrels that Emily had recently found nearby, you're trying to walk them by like, look, guys, this is where she's been. Why aren't we like, have you guys checked here? And they're like, man, they don't really, oh yeah, we'll get to it. Well, don't worry. Well, yeah, they aren't doing their job, and that leaves, this. But that's where, if you're a prosecutor, you should say, well, if that's something you can be aware of, did you guys check there? Why didn't you check there? Why didn't you this? Why didn't you that? But yeah, it's an entire machine of garbage in, garbage out, and the garbage just kind of filters through.
Yeah, that were, and it also pertained in my case to they had one expert make a report, and all their experts after that made their opinion off of that report. So if the original report isn't any good, the rest of the reports aren't either. So.
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. That's things just piled up and piled up. I thought the more interesting part was, and I don't think anybody was aware of this, was this is still before, you've been formally charged and all the issues that are going on, all the civil things that happened, in the middle of you trying to grieve for Emily and try to get affairs sorted out.
It was, they came after me civilly. They came after my home, and they came after my power of attorney rights and my executor rights over Emily's will. This happened after they found her. So it was the 9 months in between them finding her and me being arrested. It's in my book. I name names. It's just, I don't know why a lawyer or a judge wouldn't say, hey, listen, we're not going to make any of these moves until we find out whether this guy's guilty or not. So I'm going to put everything on hold until it's over. And they didn't. They let it go. Happened while I was in jail. They took my home while I was in jail. They started to take my home. They started to take all my rights away. It was right after a couple months within them finding her. So it's like we went to a couple of meetings and a couple dates at trial, but to me it was just more of harassment. Like there shouldn't have been any decision made on any of that until whatever my thing got figured out, but they just let it happen. So there wasn't anything I could really do about it.
Yeah, and as I think the way you talk about it, like you were gonna get ready to have to spend all your money on the civil case, but then all of a sudden you turned around and immediately, up to that point, everything you have has to go towards protecting yourself.
I had enough money in the bank to fight the civil. I was in the right. There wasn't any reason for me not to be able to. It was in Emily's will. They were just betting on that I was guilty of murder, so they just started doing things. Once I was arrested, I didn't have money for two fronts. I shuffled all my money to a defense attorney, and I just said, we'll figure out the civil stuff when I get out of here, if I get out of here.
Sure.
And by the time I got out, the house was already gone. So, and there's other things going on right now, but it's just a slow process, and it all takes money, and you got to pay lawyers, and you can't really, it's all Delaware County. That's where it's all happening. So it's a tough thing.
Yeah, and for those of you guys who aren't aware, Delaware County, it's a suburb of Columbus, but it's a pretty, it's pretty mild there. Yes, Columbus has a lot of problems and a lot of things going on, but Delaware's kind of laid back. It's definitely, that's been my experience there. It's pretty relaxed, So especially the way that when you talk about when you're trying to leave your condo driveway, and all of a sudden the police just jump you like you're Osama bin Laden. Were you? Because I know you mentioned it. You're like, I was really calm about it. But was it because it was so surreal, or because you talked about how you kind of had that feeling something was going to happen?
Yeah, you can feel the heat. Like you see them. They're following you. They're doing things. They're around. It's just the feeling you get. And I knew that day that something was going on. I knew weeks prior I could see that something was going on. But when it happened, I just told myself, don't move. They tell you not to move, don't move, I guess.
Yeah.
I just did what they told me.
Yeah. So once you were in, you talked about this a little bit, kind of getting paraded around. How did that feel because actually we need to go back for a minute. When you're dealing with the press, when Emily's gone missing, you tried to address them at a Black Lives Matter rally, and you're like, "Hey, can you guys here's some flyers?" And they look at you and they tell you, "We think you did it. We think you're a bad guy."
It was real quick. That's how fast they got in everybody's ear about me. It was
Yeah,
literally, it was 5 days later, I'm at a Black Lives rally,
yeah,
Black Lives Matter rally, and they knew who I was.
yeah. And at that point, and this is way prior to you being arrested. They
Mhm.
already thought you were a bad guy.
This is the first week. This is within
Yeah.
5 days.
hmm
There's no
When you,
evidence to anything. There's no evidence of foul play. There isn't anything to make anybody think that anything but Emily just left.
yeah.
So, but they decided it was murder that
hmm
first couple days, and that was that.
And then when you're getting kind of hauled around, and obviously they didn't have to do it in such a way that the cameras could all see you, and they're taking you into the police car, and the microphones are being shoved in your face. Um, how did it feel getting paraded around like that? Did you feel like you were being paraded like a trophy at that point?
I put it in the book.
Mhm.
It's literally like a movie. It's
Yeah.
like it was like a bad movie because they weren't very
Yes.
good at acting, but they were trying to he's trying to take me by the arm and like lead me along, and it was all
Mhm.
phony. It's just they weren't being real, you could tell, and it was just so it was surreal. It was surreal.
Mhm.
I've heard of a perp walk, but I didn't know it was still a thing. People actually still put
Yes.
people on perp. What's the reason for that? Well, to make them look like a jerk, to make them look a
Yes.
certain way. So
Yeah.
yeah, it
Well,
was.
and I call them trophy walks because they're holding you out and they're trying to
Right.
hold you up as like, yeah, look what we
Yeah,
caught the bad man.
yeah.
Um,
No presumption of innocence. They don't care
mhm.
about any of that. They're just, hey, look what we got here. It's silly. It's not silly, but it's silly. It's like
Yes.
anybody to put anything into that. I mean, what are you really gonna look at that and
Mhm.
not know what it is for what it is? It was surreal. I couldn't believe it.
Mhm.
And they were
So
warning me online before that. When I was being harassed online months before, they're warning me about my perp walk, and what's a perp walk? So I had to figure out what it was, and then all of a sudden I'm in a perp walk. So yeah, it was surreal.
yeah. And so once that happens, I notice you talk about when you're in the jail, it's just dirty.
Ugh.
And I don't think a lot of people here, I've been in a lot of jails
Yeah.
and in and out of them. But I guess explain to people what it's like. How dirty is jail?
It's
How is it?
it's the just the mentality that's in jail is just dirty. The whole thing's
Mhm.
just filthy. It's it's not like anything you would think it is. I wasn't prepared for it. The
Mhm.
doors opening and closing is the first thing you have to get used to. There's nothing, there's no material around. There's no curtains or cushions or mattresses or anything to soak in any kind of like low, like high end sound. So everything's just clangs and echoes in your head. To me, it was all put there. Everything's set up a way to just make it as difficult as possible so that you become like, you just will do whatever they say, just get me out of
Mhm.
here or just make this
Yeah.
stop. So
Yeah. Well, I loved. I'm not saying I love it, but I know your frustration when you're talking about using like the jail phones, and you're like, oh well, it's like you have to like lean over because it's
that
not
was
long enough.
horrible.
You can just sit up with them.
It was
Yeah.
like torture. It was physical, and
Mhm.
you're like, it's all set up to be as difficult as possible. It really is.
Yes. And then there's a. Did they give you the little flimsy floppy pens to write with, or did they give you?
Yeah, yeah. The little
Okay,
flimsy pens.
you know what I'm talking. Okay, because I've had to bring this up before in trials, and people are wondering what I'm talking about. Yeah, they are so awful. Because I've had them before when some jails I'm not allowed to bring in a pen, so they give it to me, and it's this little flimsy piece of junk,
It's a
and it
flex
looks like
pen.
yeah, and they are awful to use because basically you have to sit there and you basically have to write with it like this,
I
basically
eventually
hold
I
the
gave
tip
up,
down.
and with my lawyer visits,
Yeah,
eventually I just gave up. There wasn't anything I could do. Was I going to write something with this little flex pen? You can't see. I
yeah,
broke my glasses, so I couldn't really see very well.
mhm,
Um, there's nothing to sit on. There's nowhere to get comfortable. The food's awful,
mhm,
horrible. Food's like you don't get your vitamins. I'll tell you that.
mhm,
So it's in my case, I got really lucky because I had money.
mhm,
I had some money, and I think Diane Menaggi, I don't know how she found out about my case because I think she found out about it. I don't really know how, but she
mhm,
got involved, and I got really lucky. because it could have went the opposite way, you know. So.
Sure. Well, actually, I was going to get to Diana in a second. Actually, you know, we'll just start there. You know, because I've had a little bit of conversation with her, mainly just to make sure I could talk to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, because I technically, you know, she was your attorney of record, and I just wanted to make sure, you know, it's just kind of covering my butt. Hey, is it okay if I talk to your client? And she said, oh, well, he's not my client anymore. It's all done, so you're fine.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure, because you never know. Like I said, you know, you said like you're kind of handling, you know, you're trying to go back and take care of your business. Well, you know, I don't know who in there would be doing that.
I think that Diane and I we're I mean, she's not on, you know, she's not my lawyer anymore. So she did what she did. And that's that. I spoke to her once by email.
Okay.
That was it after I got out. Yeah, she went up to Cleveland and got 3 guys out of jail, or 2 guys out of jail.
Yeah, she did.
Right,
she did. Yeah. Yeah, I saw that, but I hadn't had a chance. That one wasn't on for us to cover. So yeah, she's a very good attorney. So when you're sitting there, I mean, when you were in the jail, how, you know, you mentioned about not everybody's in there trying to snitch on people, but you know, there's guys in there who know what they need to do. How, you know, that had to be tough, because, you know, like you said, everybody, you know, like you're paranoid, like everybody out there in that jail wants to say, hey, I know something about Matt Moore, because they know that the minute they say that, the police will pretty much give them what they want.
If they can figure out some way to deal with what they're I was, I try to explain in my book the best I can. It's just, you can't talk to anyone in jail. Not that you should or want to anyway, but I mean, you're spending all day, every day with these people, and you're in the beginning, there were some guys around that were experienced, and they would try to get me to talk about my case, but my primary attorney court told me not to, and so that wasn't a problem. I was never going to say anything. But you don't really know what you can say and what can't you say, because they can make something up, you know. So it's really kind of a maddening situation you're in. You don't know who you can talk to, and all your phone conversations are recorded. So the entire time you're in jail, you can't talk to anybody. So it's even while your attorney visits, you don't know if they can hear you then either. So
yeah. Well, and you mentioned it, and I thought it's so funny, because I've never been inside a pod before, but you know, you talk about the informant program, and they advertise it all over the place when you walk into the pod, like, hey, you know, be an informant, tell on your friends.
There's a it's right on the kiosk, right next to your food or whatever you get. It said informant. And I guess I was told that Delaware County is known for its informant program. They like snitches there. They use them, and especially on a case like mine. So I mean, there were guys that were around me that were constantly trying to get me to talk about my case.
So I guess, you know, we'll this one here, I think I'll start with this one by That's a Shame. I think this is actually kind of dovetails into right where we're at right now. For $4.99, thank you, by the way. She says, does the humiliation of your life being picked apart and traipsed before the world even register, or are you laser focused by the time you get to trial?
Trial, because you don't know anything. The 15 months that I was in jail waiting trial, nothing was told to me. There's nothing really to get laser focused about. So it's come to find out afterwards. I mean, Diane and court were worried about, they were focused in on what was in the discovery. They weren't really asking me questions, so I didn't know.
Okay.
So as far as in me being prepared for anything, I wasn't prepared for anything by the time.
Okay, fair. And that's actually, you know, what I was going to ask you. When, you know, Diane meets with you and they start talking to you, are are they kind of filling you in on what they're looking at, or what are they? How are they kind of when they come in to update you on things? What are they talking about?
They would just tell me if very little, and then they would be like, do you have any questions? And I'd be, well, yeah, but my questions were irrelevant to them.
Mhm.
Really, it wasn't anything that they needed to know, or and that's maddening when you're trying to figure this thing out for the first time. There's all this stuff that they need to know. They didn't need to know it. There wasn't anything that they needed really from me. They just needed to know what was in the discovery. They didn't. You could probably know a little bit more about this when you'd go see a client.
Mhm.
I mean, there was it seemed to me that there was things that they were keeping me from for whatever reason. Is that something you kind of like? It would have been nice for them to say, hey, Matt, we're not going to talk to you about a lot of this stuff. We're going to do this over here, but don't worry, but it wasn't really like that. They just kind of left me like, I don't know why they would, like, they didn't have really great bedside manner, they weren't really concerned about how I was feeling in it. Cause I was going crazy in there, but
Undoubtedly.
they took care of everything. When I say when they took care of everything, they took care of everything. So.
Yeah. So I guess I would say it all depends. And I think at times I don't, if that's how they went about it, I would try to tell you, hey, look, there's a bunch of stuff that's going on here. If we start talking to you about it, it's something that, there are times where maybe not telling you everything is helpful because that you might end up talking, you might end up looking into something. And I get that. And I think that could have been part of it. But every attorney kind of has their own way of doing stuff. And, I know you said at times, court was giving you papers and you like slide them through the slot a couple at a time. When it gets to all that stuff, though, I mean, I think maybe for some of them, they're thinking, well, this guy talking about the hyaloid bone and all this forensic stuff, they're trying to get it sorted out and figure out everything on their own and figuring out the science behind it. To have to sit there and explain it all to you is going to be, well, now they're explaining to you something they're not 100% on. And then it's like if I tried to explain to you orbital mechanics right now, it's like, I guess we'll try.
Right.
And then
Right.
I guess that's where I would start at, and maybe that's why they did it that way. So
I can say that they didn't go out of their way to make it easier for me in there, but I what they did was fine. Now that I look at it, I mean, but it just they didn't. Is that something that, like, when you go in to see a client, it's not like it's not like you're babysitting them. You don't feel the need to like make sure that they're okay mentally while they're going through this. You have your job to do, and it's got nothing to do with that.
Well, no, personally though, I mean, I try to, but I mean, if I feel like look like you're doing okay, I feel like things are fine. I can tell you're not getting really despondent or you're getting super like manic up and down. I generally don't try to bring up, mental health because then, hey, how are you holding up? Because then you have to think about how you're holding up. And I just think to myself, like, if you think about how you're holding up, then you're like, oh my God, how am I holding up? And you're like, oh shit, I'm stuck here in jail. And oh my God, you see how it kind of like snowballs from there. But if I do have a client where I think things are getting bad and I think things are getting rough, I will talk to them like, how are you doing? Are things okay? I've had a client or two where they've asked me, and I'm sure you were in your, in the pod, you probably heard talking about guys checking out. Did you ever hear about that term?
Just going to solitary?
Yeah, checking out, wanting to get out of there, telling them I'm not safe here. I've had a couple of clients where they didn't want to do that because for guys in jail, that's a thing of prestige that you're not going to check out. You're going to be a man and deal with it. Where if your attorney says to the COs, like, I think this guy's going to hurt himself. I have a very sincere belief it's real. Well, guess what? Now that's documented and I think he's not safe. Well, his attorney, they pulled him out. He didn't pull himself out. Now, sometimes that doesn't work and they're still stuck in there, but have gotten, but I do. If I sense something's up, I do try to bring it up. But if somebody's hanging in there, I don't always bring it up.
Let me ask you this.
Like,
I like I say in my book, when the trial began, I didn't think that my attorneys were prepared in any way because they hadn't gone over anything with me. Is that something that they normally would do? And I was wrong because they were completely prepared. I mean, obviously they were over prepared. They were way more than prepared than I ever thought they could be. But they never went over anything with me, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
Is that something that you keep from your clients for some?
Not necessarily in my situations, but uh, that I guess when you talk about like the amount of discovery, like 30,000 pages of discovery, like you mentioned in the book. By the way, I guess we'll just bring that up again real quick. In that book, by the way, guys, is on Amazon. It's a Kindle book. It's Emily, a staged suicide in Ohio. You can get it on Kindle. I just wanted to make sure people see that again. No, and for example, I have a trial that's starting on Monday. I've talked to my guy, like, here's what we're going to do. Here's what I'm going to try to do. Obviously, he knows, the whole situation that happened. And I've talked to him about what we're going to try, how we're going to go about it, and what I think it's going to do. It's a little more straightforward than, I don't have 30,000 pages of discovery. I have a couple hundred. But a bunch of them are not relevant to what's going to happen at trial ultimately. So it does help if things can be narrowed down. But I understand from your side of it, if you haven't been told exactly, hey, how are we going to attack this case? Yeah, you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, well, what is going to happen? Are they ready? Are they going to just say, well, maybe he didn't, are they going to say, is their entire defense? Nuh-uh, he didn't do it. And, because you don't know what doctors they've talked to. Yeah.
I didn't know.
Okay.
I had no idea. Nothing was explained. None of our none of our experts were ever explained to me what they said. Okay. They warned me about what their experts were saying, but as far as our rebuttal to that, no, that was never explained. And I think maybe I guess what I'm asking is that was like there was a reason for that, and they weren't just doing it to be cruel to me. I mean, Diane and Court were doing that for their reasons, for their own reasons, to keep me a certain way or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. Well, no, and I think if we were to have them here right now, they probably would come in and say, here's what we're trying to do. Here's, I think that they would say whatever we were doing, we have a reason for it. I certainly don't think they would come in and say,
right. Just
oh yeah, yeah, or they'd say, actually, yeah, they wouldn't. I don't think they come in and say, oops, but I think every attorney has their own style of doing things, and the way I do it, some of you might be thinking, oh wow, that sounds really good. I've still had defendants and clients complain they don't like how I'm doing it. So, it all depends. But I know if, for you, for example, since you didn't know, you were sitting there and you showed in your book, your list of, in your Bible you're writing out your list of, well, what's good, what's bad, what can I do, what can I do? You're trying to figure, sorry, my phone rang. You're trying to list out what's in discovery, what wasn't in discovery, what you think, because if you have no idea what's going on, certainly you're like, well, am I going to have to pull this out of my butt?
Right. Yeah.
And I saw those notes.
And do defense attorneys know exactly what they're going to use in the 30,000 pages of discovery before they go to trial? Or is it something they have to figure out? Is it, because it seemed to me it was like a tactic to inundate them with so much discovery that it confuses them. Well, we don't know where they're gonna key in on. I wasn't sure whether that's something that they do or.
Well, there's the idea that yes, they're going to give you every slip of paper, but also though, as a defense attorney, I want every slip of paper because that way I know you've given me everything.
Right. Well, yeah.
Because if I don't have it, and they say, "Oh, we want to give you," we're only giving you what we give you.
Well, obviously they gave him all that discovery, and there was none of it. I mean, nothing. Yes. There was none of it, and so all of it was garbage. I mean, so you're
100%. Yes.
You got to figure out what they're going to use or not.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hold on one second. Hey, Connie, can you hear me? I know you're backstage. Do you see the stop cam button that's on the bottom? If you click that, that'll turn your camera off for you. And then also, just so you know, Connie, you have your full name on. I can change that real quick for you. I'll fix that. I just want to make sure you can hide your camera if you want. So we're gonna finish up real quick and then we'll bring you on. But I do like the one part of your book, and I think I really respect it. they tried to get you to snitch on someone else in your
Yes,
block.
it did. Yeah.
And you did better. You did it better than I did, because I would have done, because you said, I just think the guy needs help.
Right.
I would have said, what's in it for me? Like,
Right.
here I am, like,
No.
you're sitting there facing murder charges, and they want you to help out another case. Like, well, what are they going to do? They're not going to make it any
Right.
better for you.
It came natural to me just to
Yeah.
say, hey, listen, I want nothing to do with it. As soon as I figured out
Yeah.
what he wanted, I was just, no.
Yeah.
Those were dark times. That was a real dark night.
So, yeah, I also just like how you talk about hearing, some of the guys getting into fights, and just how everything goes on, and you just sit there and you're like, you just listen, and all you can do is just, you just got to sit there and let things happen all around you. You can't get involved. You got to let
Yeah,
you got to let these guys fight.
It's like you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to be a little bit faster than the slowest person. Yeah. That's kind of like what it is.
Yeah, and and in your book you talk about it, where just calling somebody a name, all of a sudden somebody's dropping a tray and getting ready to fight. And
yeah, they're violent people, man. I mean, I don't. It's just that's just their plight in life. They're no parents. They're criminals, right from their parents are criminals. It's just a tough spot. A real tough spot. Yeah, it's and jail's not as bad as nearly as bad as prison as far as violence, because everybody in jail is trying to get out of there. You don't want another charge, but it's still it's dangerous all the time. Everywhere you go, it's dangerous. Because most of the people in jail have mental health issues.
Yes. I guess well, I guess we'll just start with this and we'll get into the trial, I guess, from here. But when you talked to Diane over the phone, she said, this doesn't look good. Ultimate, like at face value, at first glance.
Just to let you know, I don't mean to interrupt you, but while we were in my pod, I came back and I told everyone what my attorney said, and it became our catchphrase for like, I don't know how many months after that. If anything would go wrong, everybody would go, doesn't look good.
Oh, really?
Doesn't look good. And we all laugh about it because it was just, why would an attorney ever say that to his client?
Well, I guess you kind of have to, though, because I can't lie to you. I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's all great, and then we get the trial. And it's like, why are we getting shut out? Yeah. But I don't know if I saw that part. But that's fun. That's funny. Everybody's like,
I
dude,
didn't say that in the book, but it was something that we all I didn't put in there, but it was kind of fun because that's what everybody would start saying. When anything would come up, they just kind of say that.
Okay. And speaking of the beginning of trial, we actually have another guest, and this person was a critical part of the trial. In fact, this person was a critical part of Mathew being here today with us. It's one of the jurors actually from the trial. And, the only reason why I know this person's a juror is because obviously Mathew knows who the jurors were. He sat in front of them for days on end, and we never got to see them. But, joining us right now, I'm going to bring her on, is Connie, one of the jurors. And like I said, Connie, if you want to turn your camera off, you don't have to be visible if you don't want to. I couldn't hear you, but I'm going to bring you on right now, okay? So, yes, this is Connie, one of the jurors. Hello, Connie. I think you're on mute. I don't think we can hear Connie. We can't hear you. No. Hold on, see if we can turn up your mic. I'll turn up your mic here. Do you see a little mute button? Do you see a little microphone there? Yeah, can you unclick that? Yep. Are you there? We can't hear you. What I will say, Connie, is if you have a cell phone, I know Matt sent you the link. If you click the link through your cell phone, it should fire up, and that might be a little easier than your computer. So while Connie's working on that, there are a couple of questions I did want to talk to you about. Oh, Aldermeyer says for $20. Thank you, by the way. Matt, I'm heading to Vegas for most of June. That sounds like a really bad. That sounds like a really hot time. What are the best things to do out there that most people don't get the chance to do?
Both. I've been out here so long, 25 years I've been out here. It's to give visitors advice on what to do. There's just, I mean, it all depends. There's lots to do out here. The food over the 25 years I've been out here has gotten really good. All the major casinos have really, really good restaurants. So the food is fantastic.
Okay.
I mean, there's shopping, we got a couple sports teams out here now. There's,
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Oh, I think she's. No, we can't hear you still, Connie. Yeah, Connie, I was just saying, if you click the link Matt sent you through your phone, it should bring you up through your browser on your phone, and you can come in that way. Okay, well, you could be our Vegas tour guide unofficially. That's a shame
if you're a golfer. You can golf out here.
Yeah, that's a shame for $4.99 says, and thank you, by the way, for this one. And I think this is an interesting one because I think a lot of people may have actually wanted to know about this. Trying to grieve for Emily while you're going through this for 15 months. Did you feel, obviously they haven't read the book. Did you feel resentment or bitterness?
I never felt bitter. As far as grieving for Emily, I'd lost my two sons had died. My brother had died in a car accident. I don't grieve. I've been through grief in my life. I lost people that are really close to me. Emily's death was because the day she went missing, the day she died, was right when the police thing started. So it was a really strange. I'm not saying that. I don't think I grieved Emily properly. I put it away. You have to. You can't dwell on that.
Sure.
I never, and I know how to grieve. I mean, I've been through it before, and this was just. I mentioned in my book. It's just this was not normal. It's not the same thing. I don't feel bitter. I don't feel. I wish I didn't know the things I know now. I feel like I'm a better person in a lot of ways, but
yeah,
it's to be. I mean, you're there. You see the criminal justice system. You see law enforcement. I'd never been involved with law enforcement before. I'm a bit blown away by all that, being exposed to all of that. I don't think I'm ready to be angry. After you go through what I've been through, I think being mad would probably eat you up. So I just try to stay looking towards the positive the best I can. I think doing things like this, talking to you and writing the book and finally getting my story down, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. So
yeah. I mean, you can say whatever you need to say now, and I know also it's not just Emily, but her son as well. Prior to Emily passing on, passed away as well, and you mentioned that you were dealing with that already on top of everything else.
Yeah, her stepson, my son Joey, had died a little less than a year before she went missing. So yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, and I know, and you mentioned in there, you're like, it's hard when you're already in the middle of loss to realize there's other things are starting to kind of pile up, and there's other, like you said, you were already focused on that like you said, it's just looking back in hindsight, seeing what you know now.
It's a nightmare when you're going to it, and it's for people to look and point their fingers and say, look, he's strange. He's a strange guy. You know, I mean, how would you feel?
Yeah.
I mean, how would you react? Well, you know, it's maddening. It's like it's not even happening. And the way the community reacted in the Columbus area, some people in my family, you know, it just, what are you saying? You're gonna agree with these people? What they put in the media is very effective with the narrative that they put out there. I was on a podcast called
Vanished
podcast. I mean, look what those people did. I mean, that should be illegal. I don't care who you are. You shouldn't be allowed to say those things. They said on their podcast that I failed a lie detector test.
Yeah, and you never took a polygraph, right?
I took a voice inflection test. I absolutely did.
Yeah, but you didn't take like a polygraph where they hook you up in them. Yeah,
a voice inflection test.
Yeah, which all that stuff is voodoo anyway.
It's inadmissible. It doesn't work. Just like the dogs don't work. There's a ton of stuff that doesn't work that people think works. And so when the public hears that you failed a lie detector test from a news source that garbage in, then the next news source is Channel 10 in Columbus, which is a real news source, right? And they're referencing this Vanish podcast that's saying that I failed a voice inflection test. It's over. In the public eye, I was done. I was guilty.
Yeah, it's just one more thing for him. But yeah, I listened to part of it, and I just didn't have time to listen to all of it because they have like updates to it. But they never, I listened to the final update, and they're never like, "Oh wow, I guess we got this one wrong. It doesn't seem like you did it." And you never hear that from any of the people pushing it. They
had people on there that weren't. I mean, one of my son's friends, some kid that got her 15 minutes of fame, that was just saying awful things. How could you? Did you check any of this? I didn't know who. I was really close to my son. I didn't know who he was. The woman that was representing Emily's family, her sister-in-law, Emily and her did not get along.
You mentioned that.
Why is they having her speak for the family? I have no idea. But she would say things like, I tried to convince my son to kill himself. Where did you hear that? I mean, you're just going to allow this woman to say something like that? You know, they painted me as a serial killer. Now, I'm not going to say like the mainstream media did, but the mainstream media was using them as a reference. So when people go back.
Yeah, the internet became that's where all the news places are pulling from. They're pulling from this podcast. They're pulling from where people are talking. And yeah, we've seen that now with did you follow the Alex Murdaugh case at all that happened a couple months ago?
Not a ton.
But it was this lady was running a podcast about these murders, and it's so funny because once it all happened, she started talking, crap about people like me on YouTube or attorneys, and it's like, yes, I actually do this for a living. Yes, how dare I, look at this the way I'm looking at it, and that, oh, I'm just in this for the money, and it's like, well, you're not doing this just for the sake of doing it. It's these people are generating clicks. It gets them going, and
that's all the Vanish podcast is. If you think they're really trying to look for vanished people that are missing or trying to solve a crime, they're not. Yeah. They're there to sell advertisement.
Yes.
They don't care about truth. They don't care about justice. They're using you. People that true crime genre. That's all that is.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to try this again right now. We're going to see if Connie's here. She's ready to go. Hi, Connie. Can you hear us? Oh, can't hear. I'm going to hold on here. I'm going to make sure your mic is. Connie. Oh. Can you hear myself? Backfire. Connie, do you have YouTube open? I wonder if that's the reason why. I can hear myself.
Psychedelic, man.
Okay, I can hear myself all over. Oh no. So let's see. Okay, that's better. I fixed that. The echo's fixed. But Connie, I still can't hear you. Hold on, Connie, don't leave yet. I'm going to type you a message real quick. Sorry, guys. It's live TV. Oh, here we go. Let's try. Hi, Connie. Are you there? Can't hear you there. Hold on. All right, Connie, I just left you that message. If you can try it, that would be my next best thing to try to do. So you basically come into trial. You have no idea what's going on, and you get dressed in the morning and you show up for trial. You're seeing the jury selection. How did that make you feel?
That's another thing I have to ask you. I wasn't there for jury selection. The jury was selected. No, I was there for when they picked it was like the final pick or something. They were up on the elevated seats.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. A bunch of other people came in, and then there was a couple of them. The one guy said that he couldn't convict me if they couldn't provide a motive.
Okay.
And so he could go home, or they switched out a couple of them. But I think that they were pretty much all set by the time my trial.
Now, have you ever been through jury duty yourself?
No.
Okay, so that really made it different for you because you've never been on the other side of it anyway. And actually, speaking of jury duty, let's see if we can try this again. Hey, Connie, can you hear us? Or no, we can't hear you still. Sorry. Hold on here. Let me see. What would I? So, hold on. I'll try to get one more time. Connie, are you there? Oh, sorry. I just sent you another thing. You might want to try to see if it'll fix it. That bar at the bottom has the settings bar. Will be there. Critical. Matt, are you still there? Uh-oh. Guess we lost Matt for a second. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Someone texted me something. I checked.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
It sucks. I really want to talk to Connie. She's super. I've talked to her.
Oh, well, I think we will. If we can't do it now, we'll try it again and coming up. So, having never been through jury duty, you're just sitting there and all these people are staring at you. What was going through your mind with each one of them staring at you?
Well, it was they had the 14 or whatever it was sitting up there, and then they had all these other people come shuffling in, and Grubbs, the lead detective, he was right there, and he's standing there, and he's looking at all of them. How you doing? And kind of like, that doesn't seem fair to me. And so I was, hey Diane, what's going on? What's going on over there? I was just really hyper paranoid about all of it.
Oh yeah, every little thing probably. Like, what's that for? What's that? What's that?
That doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem fair.
Yeah.
Just the whole room was filled, and my side of the courtroom was empty. There was I don't really know. There was people that wanted to come in that they didn't allow in. I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea. It all seemed so unfair to me, and I didn't know anyone in there. I only saw Diane twice before I went in there, 2 or 3 times before I was in the trial. So, yeah,
a lot of trust there. A lot of trust.
I didn't have a choice. I didn't.
For sure. And then, so did you? Speaking of trial, I know we'll get to some of the things. Did you see the prosecutor have his little temper tantrum in front of the judge?
I did. I was sitting right there.
And when you're watching it though, are you even paying attention to that? Or are you just still kind of wrapped up in, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of this?
No,
or do you have time to focus on that?
I just it seemed coordinated to me. It seemed like he wasn't nearly as upset that he appeared to be. They did that Rule 29 thing, and I think they thought maybe that would help them in some way by doing that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Rule 29, right? He looks at
Yes.
everything. It's like, well, and then
Yeah.
if you want to, like, the best part of the trial is right when the day before is when the jury's not around. I'm sitting there, and they're going over the Rule 29, and they're giving their rationale behind it. They've gotten all the evidence. They've gone through the whole trial, and now they're looking at the judge and they're going, listen, this is what our case is. And when the prosecution's going to that, the Schiffel lady, it's like, it's laughable. It's like, and then at one point she's like, well, Your Honor, this case is mostly circumstantial. And the judge goes, yeah, I agree with you there. Like, just giving it to her. I mean, I thought for sure that he was going to let it go the next day, but he said, if you look at things in the light most favorable to the state, we're going to let it go to jury. But if you look at that part, if you listen to that part, Diane comes out and just nails it. She crushes it. She's like, why this thing shouldn't even go to jury. And she was right. She makes a great case for that. But if you want to listen to their case, kind of encapsulated into just a little bit, and they're like, even the judge is like, what is this cord? What's the significance of the cord? They didn't know. They're just like, something got moved, and he said he didn't move anything, so he's guilty of murder. It's just silly.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. That's where it was very much getting. That's where I was starting to, we were all watching and we're just like, is this the best you guys got?
I can't believe that a case like that would even
Connie's
make it.
back. Hold on, we'll try one more time here. Hi,
Can
Connie.
you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, we can hear you.
I went into settings and played around with things. I'm so sorry, you guys.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Don't apologize.
I'm just glad I'm here and you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good.
So, guys, welcome. After much ado, juror, I don't know what your juror number was, Connie.
Juror number 8. I will never forget that as long as I live. Juror number 8.
She's the one I waved to when I was waving, when you were like, hey, I waved to us.
He waved, and I think you meant, Matt, I was watching your face. I think you meant thank you to everybody, didn't you? Kind of a thank you. And I just threw my hand up like, you're welcome. But it was quite an experience for me, but I can't imagine what Matt went through, and it's sad how it had to end for Emily and be strung out so long with no closure for many, many months. It was just horrible. If that detective would have gone down and found her body where we, the jurors, were sent to the first day, we managed to go down and climb down that little ravine and go see the area where they was found. It's just sad that they didn't find her sooner, and then maybe things would have totally. Well, first off, there would have been closure right away for Emily. She deserved that,
right?
And Matt wouldn't have been put through all this. But this was the first time I've ever been a juror. And I used to kid about how I've never been called for jury duty. And I could not believe when I got in there were so many potential jurors, and I was surprised I was kept. But I want to say, and then I'll let you ask me anything if you want. I get talking because I
that's okay.
It was such a experience for me. First off, I want to tell you the judge, the woman, Carla, she was head of the jurors. She told us that we were the most professional, attentive jurors. And I think that speaks volumes for how our verdict was not guilty. I mean, we were a smart bunch. And the judge also said that, he came in after, it was over. He told us what a wonderful, attentive group we were. We heard that twice, attentive. And, that is important. So, and, the jurors can't talk amongst each other in all those 8, wasn't it 8 days, Matt?
8 days. Right.
We weren't, and I'm constant, and I couldn't even come home and talk to my husband about it. And I'm constantly thinking, I hope these guys are thinking like me. This trial, I'm still waiting for something to come that might make me think maybe Matt did it. And, by day 5 or so, I'm still hoping, and the jurors, we're not allowed to discuss anything until you know, at the end there. And I was just praying and hoping that they were thinking on the same wavelength as me, because it was just very obvious to me that Matt Moore did not kill his wife. I mean, there wasn't one shred of evidence, nothing.
Oh, that's actually what I was going to ask you. Were you ever at any point ever convinced otherwise, even just a little bit?
Oh, absolutely not. And that says, you know what speaks volumes to me when we went in to deliberate?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, we could have reached our verdict within that first hour.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. We all went around, you know, we finally are in there, like, we can finally discuss this. And I'm sure they were all thinking, what have you all been thinking? And I can't wait to hear what they're thinking. And immediately we go around the table and everyone says not guilty. In the first 20 minutes, we sat down, but we didn't want to be reckless. We wanted to think it through. We got one of our girls went up to the chalkboard. We kind of laid everything out that was important, so we would not look reckless, but it was not guilty by everyone. There wasn't one juror that swayed or thought maybe, oh, I'm not sure. Absolutely not. Everyone was like, not guilty, not guilty. They had nothing on Matt, nothing. And some of the, you know what I think is kind of sad about my experience as a juror? I was kind of hoping attorneys and courts were something you could truly count on. And I think about all the people that could possibly be in prison.
Yeah.
Thank God Matt had the money, and it's a damn shame that he had to spend his inheritance to fight for his life.
Right.
But how many people are in prison that didn't have a good attorney and didn't have the money, but maybe not guilty, or maybe, you know, not guilty and in serving time for something they didn't do? Because I can't imagine, Matt, they took away what, a year, Matt, you were in jail for a year.
Yeah, but it was also the over a year that she was before I went to jail. I mean, you had to try that up to.
That's right. You spent a year before they even arrested you, and then he served. You know, that's 2 years of his life. And you know, when I say the word life, I think of Emily every day of my life too. I think about her every day. That trial really affected me, and I'm so sad for Emily and her family. But the reality is, Matt didn't do it. There's no way Matt did that. And I will never forget seeing a stack this high of printed out text messages between Matt and Emily. And the prosecutors went through that, and they found little pieces of things and tried to turn it into something. And 95% of the text messages was just normal husband and wife text messages. I'm on my way home. What do you want for dinner? Just normal texting. But they tried to twist and turn things in all those and then they made a comment during COVID, when Emily was working from home, like many people were, that Matt and her possibly were having marital trouble. They weren't texting anymore. Well, good grief, they were in the same house.
So you caught that. I
caught that.
Did you know that the Grubbs is still using that as an excuse? He was just on Law and Crime, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago, and he's still saying the same thing, that that our text messaging was a kind of a up and down, but at the end of March it was all down, no more ups, and it was because we stopped using the word love. But we stopped, like you said, we didn't use any words because she started working from home, so we didn't text at all anymore.
Exactly.
Sure.
And he's still saying the same thing now that the trial's over. He's still saying the same.
And you know, Matt, the first day that we saw the video, body cam of the officer that first went into your home, you were trying to be so helpful. It was obvious you weren't trying to hide anything. You just wanted to help.
Yeah, they said I was acting.
Helpful.
They said that was all an act, that I was somehow putting on some sort of show for you.
Well, then you should be getting some Grammy award for being such a great actor. Because
I'm not quite that clever. Yeah. I think. Go ahead.
No, Connie, if you don't mind me. So it's your first time doing jury duty. You're finally into, you're in the jury. And that whole time you finally get to see Matt for the first time. What was your initial thought at that point? Their point, the prosecutor's doing her opening statement and she's like, that's the bad man right there. That's him. What's kind of going through your mind?
Well, that was early on.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to, I was taking it all in, and all of us jurors, if Matt looked, we were all taking notes and keeping very good notes and studying our notes. And, but when the prosecutor, when the opening statements, it was shocking to me that I was in on a murder case, because when I went in and I was selected, I thought, oh, it's probably a DUI, or, I had no clue it was going to be the kind of case that it was. And then the social media that just won't stop. And it's just turned into it's a sad circus. That's what it is now.
Certainly.
People need to accept the fact that all of us jurors we listened tentatively, we took notes, and there was no, we were all not guilty right away. So people need to accept the fact that we couldn't have all got it wrong. We couldn't have got it wrong.
Well, and I think here, Harbor Warble, I don't know if you can see it. He says, kind of restoring my faith in the judicial process. So there's some people out here that, based, you guys were, people are thrilled to hear that you guys that quickly were, right off the bat, because we were all sitting out here, on Verdict Watch, like, well, what are they thinking? Like, how long is this going to go? And, it's awesome to know now you guys were just dotting your I's, crossing your T's, just making sure you went through everything. But you guys had already pretty much thought this is not guilty. That is such a,
oh yeah,
that's a relief
right off. I mean, but none of us were going to jump the gun. We continually went in there every day, listening to and I kept waiting. That prosecuting team, I kept waiting for them to give me something, show me that maybe he did do this, but there was never any evidence. And I would like to know more about the neighbor across the road that was obviously stood outside and was very I don't want to say nosy, but he knew what was going on in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And he changed his mind. He originally said that he'd seen Emily that morning.
He was very confident in that too.
He was very confident.
He told everybody that.
And all of a sudden, I believe, I don't know if I can speculate here, but I'm a pretty smart girl.
Go ahead.
I kind of believe that the cops pressured him.
Of course they did.
And talked him into changing his mind.
Of course they did.
And deciding, and then he changed, that guy shouldn't even have been up there testifying.
Why would they put him up there, Connie? I mean, he said 1 minute, he's saying they needed him to be mistaken about seeing her on Monday. So they needed him to see her on Sunday, but they know we weren't there on Sunday. So that was the only other day that they could come up with. I don't even know why they put him up there. Like you said, he testified for me.
They were digging and looking for anything. They had tunnel vision and they weren't. But I'm still very disappointed in Westerville police and detectives that did not go down into that ravine that very day when you showed them. You said,
trust me,
she walks this way. She, maybe you want to look down in there. I think you said something like that, suggesting, you know, did they not want to get their shoes dirty? I mean, I don't know why they didn't do their job. And then here's another interesting thing, and I want to Google this. How many murders have been in Westerville? I believe they were inexperienced police officers.
Yeah.
I don't think there's very much murders or violence in Westerville. It's a pretty quaint little, I mean, Matt may have a different attitude about Westerville now, but you know, Westerville was always a pretty clean cut, safe place to live. So I don't think these police officers or the detective had any much experience with something like this.
I would say this would be Grubb's first murder case. I guarantee. I don't know that to be true, but I doubt he ever investigated another murder besides this one.
That'd be interesting to know, because the stuff they were going up there and saying, it was just, you know, there were times I almost like snickered inside. I wanted to be professional sitting there, but I was thinking, are you kidding me? They would twist and turn everything. It was very disappointing to me that Delaware County prosecutors did such horrible injustice to you, Matt.
Thank you. I've looked into suing for wrongful prosecution, and I've been told that I can't because it went through a grand jury.
And that's a shame. That's a darn shame. I mean, I'm glad we were there for you, because us jurors, you know, set you free. But, you know, there's somebody, you know, sometimes I think lawyers, it's almost a business. It's money making. It's money making for a lot of these attorneys. And they fattened their pockets. They fattened their pockets, and they certainly took your money away.
Right. I put it in the book. My feelings about the whole thing are wrapped up in the book I wrote. That's right along those lines. It's more about money than it is truth, justice. I mean, getting Emily justice was a catchphrase. Justice for Emily was just something they used. I don't believe. Do I think they think I was innocent? I do. I think they know I'm innocent. It was an opportunity for them to make money. It was an account that they just like churned it. They churned it.
I've lived in Delaware County my entire life, and every year at the end of the year, they do a kind of cover important things that happened for that year.
Right.
In 2022, they put out their typical annual paper highlighting, and your trial was never mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Why is that not mentioned? They wanted to go away. They want us to be quiet.
Sure.
And, you know, my husband even said, Matt continues to talk because because social media, they just keep coming at you. And you know, a guy that's guilty and was proven not guilty would run and hide, but you are out there going, I am here and I didn't do this, because you want to convince people that you didn't do it.
I want anyone that wants to show me why I was guilty. I've asked that several times, and I had other people ask that. They always say, well, they never get back. They never come back and, well, I'm here. Tell me why you think I'm guilty. They don't have any, there's no reason for them to think that I'm guilty. They believe in what the police were saying, and the media. I blame the media too, just as much. Oh
yeah. And that court TV you spoke of, they were after me to talk to me. Mm-hmm. And now she's not, and I called her.
Yeah, they called me, and I decided not to do, I would rather deal with guys like Sean, because I believe in them much more than I do mainstream. I believe in guys like Sean, the guy that's doing the interview with us right now. I'd rather do interviews with guys like him than I would court TV, even though I would reach much more people. I think this is kind of like a grassroots thing. I feel much more comfortable now. I don't think court TV would ever allow you and I to sit here and talk in front of all these people about what was going on ever. So, and Sean's willing to do stuff like that. So I'd much rather talk to guys.
Of course.
Well, I'm glad you're a free man, and
Thank you.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through all that. I'm so sorry for Emily too. I mean,
thank you, Connie. Thank you. Then if you ever talk to the other jurors, tell them I'm just my heart's to them. I mean,
are you still in contact with the other jurors at all?
Well, we had a pregnant juror, a young Katie that was ended up having twins. Then I talked to her, and I do wish there's several of them that I wish I had exchanged phone numbers with that I did not. And I did call the woman that's in charge of the jurors the other day, and I was asked her if she could give my phone number to select some of the jurors I would like to talk to. I would like to see them speaking out too, and not just me, because the more of us that explain this, and you see that we're all on the same page here, I think that adds for Matt, that makes us even more believable. But we're believable, and you know what? I'll go to my grave knowing we made the right decision.
So, I guess, Connie, did you realize? I mean, how soon did you realize this was going to be that like people all over the country were watching it, and it was becoming such a big deal that you were involved in?
Well, again, we weren't allowed to watch our TVs when we went home, even on the the very first night. So I did, but I suspected when we got there the first day, there were cameras and portable TV coverage outside. And I thought, wow, this is something pretty big, so I knew it was going to be big, because I knew it was kind of unusual to have cameras out there like that.
Connie, can I ask you something, Connie?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Agnew lady from OSU had testified that she was verbally told that molars were pulled from Emily's to use for DNA analysis. Do you remember that part? Diane didn't go into it, but she made it a point because it was a big point, because those molars that were pulled from her mouth for DNA analysis were found at the scene 6 months later. Do you remember that part?
I don't. I'm sorry, Matt. I don't.
That's okay. It's okay. It's a small point, and Diane didn't go into it, but it's just kind of like, like in her toe. Remember her toe bone that was used?
That's actually.
Oh yeah.
That no one knows where it went.
That actually was a joke for us watching it on TV. Yeah. Like, who's got the toe? Where did the toe go? And every time somebody came up, it's like, does he have the toe?
You just to let you know, Emily's giggling right now because that's Emily. She had that kind of sense of humor.
She'd be wondering where her toe's at too.
Where's my toe? She had a funny sense of humor.
It's sad that there was a lot of sadness in Emily's life prior to this, and there was a lot of sadness in Matt's life. They've lost a lot. Both of them have lost a lot and been through a lot and then for this to happen. But I will tell you, when we all reached our verdict, we weren't sure she committed suicide. We just knew Matt didn't do it. We knew, because at the trial, they didn't. We knew there was some. She had suffered some sexual molestation in her younger years, but they didn't go deeply into her mental status and
yeah, they kept that out. They kept that out.
Yeah. Why did they cut that out?
There was a technicality. The person that she made those statements to, her therapist, needed to be at trial to say that. So it was like hearsay or something. They did. So then she was out of town or whatever.
Yeah,
there's couldn't get in there.
There are a lot of evidentiary rules, Connie, and one of the bigger things is, being able to confront, people in person. And this was having people testify over Zoom. It's still not the same as being there in person. That's one of the big deals. I know that was one of the things because they initially requested that they wanted somebody to testify on Zoom, and the judge denied it. And yeah, it's really it takes a lot away from when you're having that person in the room really changes how you can, deal with that person. But you're able to read them better because when they're on the screen, it really is a different kind of feel. Because I've had cases since then where people have been on screen and it's still not the same.
What got me about that was that they wanted that testimony, that evidence out of the discovery. They worked very hard on that. And
yeah.
What are you worried about? It's the truth, right? So why?
Yeah.
But they did their best to keep that part of it out.
They definitely did. So let me see here. I do think. Sorry, Roncher said this. For $5. I just say this because it's funny. You're saying like a guilty man wouldn't keep talking about it, and then OJ enters our chat.
That's right.
Yes. So, I was actually had a couple of questions for you, Connie, but I think you've done so much to explain that it's something you think about every day still, what you were involved in and what occurred. I want to say I appreciate your, doing your civic duty and, taking it so seriously. Because you always hear the stories that people, the only people on jury duty are the people who couldn't get out of it. So, I truly mean it. Thank you for being a good juror.
Well, you're welcome. And the judge thanked us too. He was thrilled that we found Matt not guilty.
I think he was. I think you're right.
He said, but he was thrilled.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Matt was shaken and going into that court. I suspect Matt didn't trust a lot of people. He lost his trust in everybody, in the system and in attorneys, and he probably just didn't trust a soul. And I think I read or heard somewhere where he wasn't even sure. Oh, it was in your book, Matt, not having much faith in the jurors.
No, I did not.
That's
no offense, of course, but no, did not.
I know, but it's kind of funny because we were all so set on, oh my gosh, he's not guilty. It was like, why did this even go to trial? We all said that after it was over and we were all in there talking openly and freely. We were all like, why did this go to trial? Why? That poor guy, what he was put through, and that poor Emily not getting closure and dragged out that long. It's just a shame. And let me ask you this, how many tax dollars was wasted on that?
Could you imagine?
A ton.
Could you imagine the amount of money that they put into that? That's money.
My county. And I'm offended and insulted that they would spend that kind of money on something that should have never gone to trial.
When all those people go to write that big fat check every 6 months to the Delaware County assessor's office, just know that it just got all thrown away. All your money was just thrown out the door.
Yeah. So Connie, I can only imagine you're thinking this is the best. For you, it's like this is the best you guys put together. Like, come on. Now.
Well, think about how many people that testified on the prosecuting side, and how it was like this. It was like some kind of competitive sport with this team tripled, and this little team over here still won. Matt's side won, and that prosecutor, they just kept calling more and more and more people, and none of them convinced me of anything.
There was a couple witnesses that literally said nothing, like nothing. There was no reason for them to even be there.
Emily had a friend there that hadn't seen her for years, and then the one friend that looked a lot like Emily, your neighbor, you guys did a lot of things with her. You were all friends.
Celeste was a really good. I still love Celeste. I still to this day.
Well, good, because you guys all seemed like you had a really neighborly, social, fun time together.
Yes. The two friends that came up to testify that weren't Celeste, they weren't really her friends. They weren't really close. They didn't even go to Joey's funeral. Neither one of them. Maybe the one did, but I know Sue didn't. But her real friend was Celeste. That was her best friend, and Celeste didn't have anything bad to say about me.
So, Connie, I have a couple comments for you. I think I'd like to, go over with you from people in chat. Kimmy asked a really good question. Since you were on jury duty, have you watched any other trials and wondered about how the jurors came to their outcomes, or have you not really had time to do that?
I have not, but let me tell you, I'm a big 2020 and Dateline. I watch it every week, but no, I have not watched any trials. I listen intently to the news when I hear some of these cases. Like there's a big one going on right here in Delaware County, or a Delaware County resident in a big court thing in Franklin County.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been watching that on the news, but to sit and watch no, I have not.
Okay. And then that's a shame for $4.99. Thank you, by the way, for the super chat. Says I would love to see people like Connie speaking out so people can see that jury duty isn't a joke, and and how meaningful it is to the jurors as it is to the system. So I think just people are appreciative that you are you are definitely got it dialed in on what it was you were able to do.
Well, I appreciate you all appreciating me, but I felt honored to be a juror. I kind of wish it had been a green light, red light offense or a drunken driver, because it was pretty stressful being on something so big. But I didn't go near anything through like what Matt went through.
Mm-hmm.
And Diane did a wonderful job representing him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And this is, I guess, there were a couple questions asked at the beginning, Matt, but I think we're at the point where we can ask these now and they make sense. Isaac Baruch's Wholesome Gabagool Art for $2 asked, what was your first post-trial meal and how good did that taste?
Post-trial meal was a steak. Yeah. There's a steakhouse in Columbus somewhere. I forget where, but it was really great. Yeah. Steak and potatoes.
How'd you have it cooked?
Rare.
How'd you have it cooked?
Raw.
Rare? There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't give him time to even get it fired up. Yeah, and then Isaac's asking another question. Are you in contact with, and obviously if you read the book, but are you in contact with anybody that from prior, with Emily and her family?
No one from Emily's family. None of her friends. All my family, obviously, yeah, but none from the family.
Then Paul Pulver's pools for $1.99.
Hey, Paulie, what's going on, buddy? That's my
brother.
So
you know him. Oh,
brother. That's Paul. Yeah. He's in the book. He came down to help me look. Paul's in the book.
Well, Paul. I didn't realize it's the Pulver part,
That's
but
Paul. Yeah, my half brother.
Yeah, so he's got a question though. Why in the world can't you sue the pants off the people in the Facebook groups? Or we'll talk about the way the whole financial part happened. A lot of it, guys, they're going to be it's opinion for a lot of those situations. And then obviously one of the bigger things is once he gets charged, people are allowed to say, well, he's been charged, and they can rely on that and think he's guilty or he's done something. So that's not that's really the bigger thing there. And then it's, we just lost Matt. I think he'll be back in a second.
Yeah, he was charging something. I think something
was
low.
I think his phone was about to die, but he'll be back. He'll be right back. He'll come back. They always do. But no, nope, there he is.
I'm running out of power. You're right. This thing, the batteries run down on the phone. Here
I told you, yeah. When you're doing the stream and it goes fast.
What do you want to know? Why can I sue?
Well, no, he was asking about. So you get out. You've been released. It's been 15 months. What happened to your home? Like, what happened to the condo you guys had?
They went there. There's. All right. Let's. Emily put a TOD on the condo prior to meeting me, but prior to marrying me. She left it. She left it to her sister. After she got married, she made out a will, and she changed that to, in the will, the condo went to me along with everything else. After she went missing and she was found, and the attorney that made the TOD and the will both sued me for the condo because TODs supersede, they're stronger than wills in Ohio.
Yes.
I got an attorney. We were fighting that in civil court, but I got arrested. And when I got arrested, I couldn't afford both attorneys anymore. So I put all my money and it went all into my defense. And so while I was in jail, the civil attorneys, I lost my home. The judge didn't say, hey, let's wait until after this is all over and then deal with it then. He let it go through. I'm dealing with that now. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do about it. I mean, I have an argument. I at least want to get down on paper, down saying, hey, this basically I got ripped off. And yeah, and her estate, I was sued for the executorship over her estate, and that estate has been taken over by the guy that sued me for my home, that stole my home. So I'm still dealing with this man. His name is Thomas Taniff. He's out, I don't know where, Columbus somewhere. He's a real jerk, but I'm still dealing with him.
Matt lost a lot, and Matt, you'd mentioned, I read in your book, and I'm so sorry about the loss of your dad while you were in jail. That's just heartbreaking.
I know. What else can happen? I mean,
yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. And you bring that up kind of, yeah. So it's, and that's the thing, man. I mean, reading your book, it's just, I was reading and I'm like, you can't make that up. Like, it's just like, if you had written a story like that, like if you wrote a movie and it's like all the loss, I'm like, there's no way that's believable. That's just so much. And
you couldn't make it up. If you read my book, you're probably not going to believe it. You're going to be like, this guy's probably making some of this up, but it just kept happening and happening and happening.
Well, Matt, I want the public to know I read your book and I was a juror, and your book was spot on. There wasn't one lie in it. Much of everything you wrote in there, a lot of that was things that were said that I heard also in the courtroom. And of course, there was some stuff that came to light from you that I never knew about, which we were obviously not. The prosecuting team didn't want us to know about.
Right.
They were trying to build that big case,
Oh, speaking of things that you didn't get to know about, Connie, did you hear or did you, after the trial, did you learn about the one prosecutor, the guy who has the beard, him basically storming out of court in front of the judge?
We didn't know that was happening when it was happening, because
but did you learn about it
back in the break room? That's very disrespectful. And I don't know why I don't know the laws for an attorney, but it seems to me he should have been in big trouble for that. That's horrible.
He's a far braver man than I would ever be.
Yeah, he was lucky we had the judge we had. Lucky our judge was cool.
We didn't know what was going on then, though. We were left in the dark. We were not told about any of that until.
But you learned about it afterwards?
Yes.
Yeah. As I say, when you learn about things like that, does that just make you more confident in your decision too?
Oh, no, I don't even ever have to second guess my decision. And I think you'll hear that from every other juror if you spoke to all of them.
Yeah.
I don't second guess my decision at all. Not at all.
Oh.
But I'm saddened how the court system, how it was all handled for Matt and Emily. I'll keep saying that. It was just like an eye-opener to me. And an eye-opener to me, and it's kind of frightening to think that we have law enforcement out there everywhere, probably. We have good, wonderful detectives, wonderful cops, but we also have some that I have better watch what word I use, but I just don't think they did their jobs.
Sure.
I think maybe they had too much time on their hands in Westerville. I think maybe they have a lot of detectives sitting around with nothing to do. They idle hands down there at the Westerville Police Department, and it was an opportunity for them.
Yeah, it was an adrenaline rush. Ooh, we got
You
something big.
Connie, you wouldn't have believed how fast that they decided that it was murder. It was that Tuesday. It was Tuesday. It wasn't even 40. It wasn't 24 hours later. There wasn't any reason for them to think that Emily did anything but leave. Just get in a car and just take off. She got upset. Something weird happened and she just left. They thought murder on Tuesday. It was Tuesday. And they just never, that train came pulling out of the Westerville Police Department and they just didn't turn it around. Even when after they found her, they said, no, it's murder. Let's just do this. And that's evidence with all what they brought to court. I mean, literally, listen to her. They brought nothing to court. Why would they do that? How could they?
Absolutely nothing.
Why would they want to? I don't think they had any choice. I think they had to.
You know, I just hope if anyone listens to this or reads your book, and by the way, the people on Amazon that get on there and make comments that didn't even read it just to
right.
Try to defame you is sad.
They're still out there. They're still there.
But I want, there was not one bit of evidence. And what I don't even like to bring this up because it's disturbing to me, but why they would even think in that small little area where you lived and all the neighbors were neighborly, how you got her over into that woods and there was not one shred of evidence, no DNA, no footprints, there was nothing. And I wish people would think about that when they slander you on social media, that there was no evidence, there was nothing.
People if you ask those people, the people that are still doing that, to show you evidence, they won't, because there isn't any. They'll just say what they say, and then you say, well, show me why you think that, and they don't ever say why, because there isn't anything there.
Yeah. And that was what when we were watching it here, Matt, on YouTube, when we were talking about it, we kind of come to the conclusion that if you did do it, you were apparently the best murderer ever, because every case there's always something. Like nobody ever is that good where there's no trace of anything at all ever.
And let's not forget that.
So it was either that you were the best ever, which never happens, or you didn't do it.
Right.
So,
and that's a very active, busy area from what I understand. And when we went there that's a busy street. And then, the activity with the residents there that walk a lot through that area. I mean,
they were asking a lot. That's for sure. There's just when they were like, well, why didn't you go up to that spot and look for her prior to them asking you? It's because why would I ever think that she would be up there? It doesn't make any sense. It's because it's so well traveled. Someone would have seen her. Was she going to go up there and sit down and not do anything? It never even occurred to me that that's where she would be. It'd be like walking down to the end of your street and touching the stop sign and turning around and coming back. You want me to walk up to the end of the street and where is she going to be? There's nowhere to be. It just didn't make any sense. It really didn't make any sense.
I remember during the trial too, you had plans with her that day.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we were going to go to a picnic.
Going to one of her friends' picnics, a barbecue or something, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And you were wondering where she was, and you were baffled, wondering where she was because you were supposed to be going to that.
When her friend Celeste came over, when I first came out to talk to Hollis, and they said when I saw her, I thought it was Emily. I was like, oh, there she is. She's back. I was like relieved.
I remember that.
And then I'm like, no, it's not her. That's Celeste. But I mean, it was just for a second. I thought it was her, and I thought everything was fine. And
they do resemble each other. They do,
Yeah, they're about the same size. Yeah. For them to, they were saying that I was acting. I mean, go look at that, and you tell me if that's an actor. I mean, it's just I really find it hard to believe that those police think I'm guilty. I don't think they do. I think they just did what they did.
They don't think you're guilty. They just,
I don't think so. Well,
they were building a case, and they had that tunnel vision, and they just kept looking. They were digging deep, and they come up with nothing.
And I think for some of them, if you ask them, like I think Grubb especially, well, did he do it? He's going to be like, yeah, he did. He just got away. He got lucky. Is what he was telling.
He just did a law crime, whatever it is, and he's on there. He's saying, oh, he's pointing out that Emily is suicidal, but we never even asked him if that was the case. And why would he just bring that up out of nowhere? Well, they did ask me when he first got there. They asked me, is she suicidal? She had mental problems. So I didn't react to it right away. He knows all that. He knows all of it now. He's still saying there's no reason for us to think that Emily was suicidal. Well, now you do. Maybe that day you didn't, but because I didn't say anything. But I mean, now you do. Now that the trial's gone, he knows he's lying. He's lying. He's damage control right now, and it's sad that it's sad that court TV is allowing him to do it on their station.
Well, why hasn't court TV talked to any of the jurors?
No, I mean, they won't because they're pro-establishment. Court TV's garbage. It's not true. You're not going to get anything.
Well, let's say they don't want to talk to us because they like listening to that.
Yeah. Fiction. I was free to come. Why didn't they make a episode on me with me? No, they did it with him, with the cop that lost.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of, there's a pro kind of state and pro prosecution mindset in a lot of the media. So that's why, I mean, like the biggest TV shows are like Cops, Live PD, Law and Order. You know, how many people, they don't make TV shows about public defenders and defense attorneys really at the same level, or those shows, people don't like watching that. They like to think there are bad guys. And there are people out there who stop the bad guys, and they make the world a better place.
That's right. Sells more advertisement. That's right.
Yeah, that too. Connie, I had so many questions, but you were just like nailing them as you're talking. So,
I wish
I appreciate that.
My tablet of notes. I was so disappointed. We were not allowed to take those with us.
Yes.
And I feel like I have a really good mind, but this happened back in jury duty was back in September, right? Matt?
It was August.
Yeah, August.
Okay. And there were so much in there, so much information that I have trouble remembering it all now. I wish I could have talked to you, a week after, because it was all fresh in my mind, but I really wanted to keep my notes, and so I could, but I'm glad you think I've been informative, because I'm trying to bring it all back up.
Hold on one second. Apparently people are texting me saying they didn't get notified. No, sorry. Somebody was texting me, said, they're like, they're like, did you just fall asleep? You're not on. And I told them, just click in, because apparently it's not showing me live, which is great. Thank you, YouTube.
I got you on my YouTube live.
Yeah. But for, YouTube does its thing. They do what they want to do there. I guess, would you like to serve on another jury, Connie? If you're called to?
I don't know if I want to do a murder. I wouldn't mind going for a DUI or something.
You want a parking ticket?
Or a parking ticket. Yeah, my sister was a meter maid in Delaware. No, I wouldn't mind, but I'll tell you, one of the jurors, and I'm not going to say who, she was so emotional about it all. She said this was the worst experience I've ever had, and I just can't wait for this to be over. It was very hard on her, and seeing Emily in the skeletal way she was, Sure. And I worked in EMS 25 years. So I think,
you're like, I'm good.
Yeah, nothing bothers me, but emotionally stuff bothers me. But for Matt, for Emily, all that. But it was hard on her, and she said, I hope I'm never called for jury duty again. She said, I'll tell them how this bothered me. But she was a not guilty right off too, though, Matt.
Yeah. So, Matt, did you know, because I found the motions, and I talked about going through the motions that are online. Did you know, and I never saw the resolution to this, did you know the prosecutors asked to have you put the stun cuffs on you?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yeah. And did they have them on you?
No, they did not. They
Okay, but you learned that they were asking about it.
No,
Yeah.
my attorneys took care of that. It was just come
Okay.
on, man.
Oh, I agree. They make it sound like you're, Don Corleone up there, and it's
They
like
had a police escort. They escorted my car or my paddy wagon over to the court, over the courthouse. It was just, and there was 4 guys around me, and they put me in a caged elevator with a padlock, and
it's so
it was like
degrading and humiliating for you, I'm sure, because you seem like a pretty high class guy, and to go through that.
I'm not.
That has to been
I'm not
humiliating.
violent. I've never been violent.
Certainly. And you kind of talk about, like you talked about being in the cage like Hannibal. And that whole time, that morning before the verdict got read, they're telling you cuff up, like you have to, and they're talking to you like every other day, follow the rules, and you're following all the rules. As soon as you get that not guilty read, and it's all done, they took you back to process you out.
They cuffed me.
Yeah, as I say, they're at, oh, sorry, we got to cuff you because you're in our custody.
They did.
Yeah.
And they stuck me in a room for about an hour. Yeah.
Was their attitude different, or they're just like, whatever, you're getting out?
No, the COs were okay. They were all right. There was a couple COs that I'd spent a lot of time with that were actually, hey, give me the thumbs up. But yeah, there was a few that were like, okay. Most people thought I was guilty. They just thought I was guilty. So even after I got found not guilty, they, it's hard for people to change their minds. So
sure. Yeah, I was just thinking about those guys you had to like transport you over. You're like, it had to be hard not just to have like a nice, real, just know it's all over, but you're thinking, God, those guys might like throw me around for a minute too.
I just was on my best behavior. I'm like, yes, sir, no, sir. Still, I'm just trying to get out of there until they let me out the front door.
You're better. You're better than me, because I'd have been like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm leaving, right? Hey, you're gonna treat me like criminal, but hey, guess what? I'm not. Like, you're better than me at this.
Okay. I didn't want to catch a case just before I left. Just as I'm walking out the door or something. So I just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm sure you think about all the money you had to spend, and it's sad because money isn't everything, but money sure helps us survive. But there's nothing better than freedom, and to think about what could have possibly happened to you. You have your freedom, but it's still a damn shame that all that money had to be spent.
My mother worked very hard for that money. I think she's all right with it. I think it got spent fairly well. So
sure.
Well,
it's too bad, but I mean, she's probably glad it was there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I know you mentioned it in your, you mentioned like when you're in prison, you don't have pockets because you have nothing. But once you're released, they just, oh, sorry, you're not guilty. The door behind the jail closed. You, hey, have a good one. Bye.
Good luck to
you. That's it.
Good luck.
Just like like the police told you at the beginning. Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And
I'm glad you caught that part of the book. I hope I came across, because that's exactly what it was like. It was when I was leaving the investigation, they were literally like bullies. If you ever got bullied in high school or school or whatever, that's what it was like. It was like being bullied. Like they're right in my ear going, good luck, just strange. Just what the fuck is this weird shit? It was.
I don't know how you got through it all. You're obviously a strong guy, and to go through all that. And
it's like I mentioned in my book, I had a lot of hard times, and it was like God was preparing me for this in a way. It just seemed like it was. This is hard, but he's gonna. My life had made me strangely, eerily prepared for everything that I went through. So I feel like I owe it in a way to. You lose my temper. I'm not that kind of guy. So I'm not. I'm not the one to.
You held yourself good during the trial. I'd look over at you, and I looked at the dead on as close as I could. From the side, we had the witness box when they were up there on the witness box. I couldn't see him straight on, but I could see you straight on, and your attorney, and I could see the prosecuting side straight on. And you held yourself together pretty good.
It was just that right at the end when they said not guilty, I lost my composure just for a little bit. It was
And of
just
course,
so
Joey.
long it's been since I've shown any kind of emotion.
I saw you show emotion when Joey's name was brought up.
Yeah, that was another. And
That's tough.
that's still something it's really hard for me. One thing I just can't do with that without getting emotional. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And Connie, I just want you to know, I don't know if you can see the chat, but just everybody here has nothing but respect for you. So
I see someone asking, why,
Yeah.
Connie, are you so willing to come
Yeah,
forward?
from Carrie.
I'll be glad to answer that. First off, I'm pretty outspoken. They used to call me Norma Ray at work when I was fighting for a union, because when I think something's right, there's no stopping me. But the biggest reason that there's two reasons I come forward. Matt I believe that he was treated so poorly, and it was so unfair. And I like to, in any way I can, to help Matt. But I also live in this county, and it makes me sad and angry about how much money was wasted on this circus. It was ridiculous.
A lot of money. Lots of money.
I try not to go on social media anymore, because that makes me more feisty and want to just, and it does you no good to argue on social media. But when I read things and people are still coming at Matt and the negative stuff, I feel bad for the guy, because, and then I get defensive because, hey, I'm a juror and all of us said not guilty. We knew what we were doing. We're not wrong here.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, and Matt and I were talking about at the beginning, it's really hard not to want to fight back, but for you especially, you were the ultimate decision maker, and it's hard for you not to want to say, hey, we gotta, listen, you got to, I made the decision, I'm the one in charge of it. Because it's got to be hard not to want to fight everybody over that.
Well, I don't know. I think there was probably 70 potential jurors in there that they look at your questionnaire prior. So when I was chosen, I felt honored and proud that I was chosen, and I wanted to do a really good job. And it was important to me to do right. And I do think I did a good job, as all the other, I can't speak for all of them, but their verdict speaks for them. Mm-hmm. We all did a good job.
There was a couple older gentlemen that were on the jury. There were, I would look over to make sure that they weren't sleeping, and I never once. And I was sleeping sometimes. It was hard for me not to fall asleep, and they weren't. I never saw any of them fall asleep ever. And for them to sit up there for as long as they did without going to the bathroom, I was impressed, because there were some older guys up there.
Yeah, we had a very diversified group though, and well, Matt, you got to know they picked the right jurors, right? I mean, we did a good job. I mean, we were all. The judge kept saying that over and over. And when I spoke to that lady ahead of the jurors the other day, I said, I don't know if you remember me, and she said, oh, absolutely. She said, your group is a group that I will never forget. You were the most wonderful, smart, attentive jurors. She said, I will never forget you guys.
You guys did. You guys hung right in there the whole time. That was a long, boring trial. There's a lot of nonsense.
It was very, and I wanted to come home and talk about it so bad, and I knew I couldn't.
Trust me. So did I. Oh, man.
Well, Connie, I just wanted to, kind of just, if you hadn't seen this before, this is actually, because you can find it online. This is the verdict form, and you can see your handiwork on here.
Hey,
if you hadn't actually seen it before.
Yeah, I remember signing it. I do remember signing it, and we were all proud to sign it and get Matt's life back.
Yeah, I didn't know if you'd seen it. I thought you might like to see that again.
Thank you. It's always good to see it again.
Yeah. So, and Matt, you mentioned it, all the money involved. When you talk about it at the end, and it says the Westerville Police Department like to think, and it's just group after group after group,
they wrote the book for me, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. So-and-so, they say, yeah, welcome to all that. They don't just say, well, we respect the jury's verdict and justice was done. They just like, well, we want to thank everybody that helped us. And
that
then
actually, they said that when I got arrested. That's when they listed all those. That's why I thought it was even funnier. It was before I was even convicted. Here's how we fucked all you taxpayers out of all this money. Look what we did. These are all the people that screwed you.
Yes.
It's like perfect.
Mm-hmm. And then actually, Baseball Dad actually has a really great question here. It says, how's your mental state right now with things? Like how are you doing nowadays?
Yeah, I'm all right. A lot of it's pushed down somewhere. I guess you have to do that sort of thing. It's nice to be able to eat right again. The food is horrible, and it's just my health. It's really nice to be able to take care of myself again. So, as far as in everything, it's just, I mean, what do you do? I mean, there's the book was so therapeutic because I just wanted to tell my story, just to tell it, because I hadn't told anybody about it. So it was nice to get it off my shoulders. Sure. Now that it's in book form and it's out there for everybody to read, if anybody ever wants to know what really happened, it's there for you. Now,
do you have a hardback yet, Matt?
No, I'm working on that because I've never done this before. So I'm working on a paperback right now.
Good.
Yeah, guys, the book is it's on Kindle. It's Emily, a Staged Suicide in Ohio. Just go on Amazon, you'll find it pretty quick.
And there's the story. That's the story. That's what really happened.
And just so you know, I hope you don't have any I don't know who's in if you're in a relationship right now, but Megan just wants to know, can you hypnotize me through the screen?
Oh, okay. I'm 52, lady. All right, 52.
Hey, that's like R. Kelly said, age is nothing but a number.
I don't know. My old knees feel pretty old sometimes.
So, and Connie, I wanted to ask you, since you still live in Delaware County, I mean, has this affected how you, because there's another civic duty, voting. Has this affected how you might vote in coming elections?
You better believe it. You better believe it. Absolutely.
When is she up for election again? Schiffel.
I don't know, but I can't wait.
Yeah, if whoever's running against her, if he ever wants to get a hold of me, always call me.
I was gonna say, I also assume, Connie, you wish Judge Bolivar could come back to office and work in your county again, right?
The judge we had.
Yeah.
I always forget his first name.
I think it's David.
The judge that was Matt's judge. He was a great. He was a great guy. I thought he was a good judge, and he was kind and very professional. Yeah, I liked work being a juror under him.
And then this one here from Warren for $20. Thank you, Warren. C. Warren, actually. He says, Mathew and Connie, either of you ever think of running for office? We need good people like you two to run.
Connie might be a little bit better than me. I have trouble with words. I'm still maybe I'll work for Connie.
I don't think I'd ever want to run for office. No, I worked for the county for 25 years. I've worked in that political arena, and I'm a registered voter, and I get out there and vote, and I want to make changes, and I still believe in our freedom and the Constitution, but I don't ever want to run for office. I'm pretty outspoken, but my temperament's not good enough. I'd probably be a little more like Donald Trump. No filter on my mouth sometimes.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But no, I think, I think people really appreciate both of you in that, your experiences here are, genuine and sincere, and it's, shaped how you now view your life, and it's shaped your lives in a pretty significant way. And those are the types of people we do want to be in, office and trying to lead us. And we don't necessarily want people out there for their own interest, but people have had that positive change or want to do that positive change.
Right.
So,
no,
it's just, this is, I just, the the comments from people here. I wasn't sure what tonight we were going to get, like 50-50 or whatnot, but yeah, it's just everybody. I hope if you guys can see them all, I just want you to know people, truly are appreciative of both of you guys tonight.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate having Sean, guys like you around. I hope. I think the first thing I saw you was talking about was when you were just yelling into the camera, "Don't talk to police." And I'm like,
Yes,
where were you? Where were you before I had my little encounter? I missed you.
Yes, yeah. Well, Matt, just so you know, here, hold on. We'll do this real quick, just for you, Matt. Do not talk to the police.
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
No, I talked too much.
But you know that's that part of Matt that was so helpful in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Reiterates to me how innocent he was, because he's just like jumping in with help. What I'm surprised you didn't offer him coffee, Matt. I mean, he was trying to help them.
Yeah, my situation was, I mean, I had to talk to them. I mean, I needed their help. They just took advantage of it.
Yeah, but I just mean it was obvious to me from that. That was the first thing we saw was the body cam from the first report that was taken when you called in. I forget that police officer's name.
Hollis.
Yeah, okay. That was the first thing we saw with him, and you didn't act like you were stumbling over your words. You was just wanted to help, and that impressed me right off.
I don't know what they found out in that first day or that second day. What made them think murder so quick? I would like to ask them.
Sadly, they lack experience, and maybe they watch too much Dateline in 48 hours. But the biggest percent when a spouse dies, look at the statistics. So they didn't even know
there wasn't any reason for them to think she was dead. None, zero, nothing. But they thought dead right away. I don't know why.
Yeah, and Matt, I know when I think I've seen a couple people mention this before they asked, and I know you kind of touched on this. It's it was pretty clear to us that it wasn't somebody else that did it. But it does look like Emily did take her own life. And, is that, and I know, read the book. I certainly, guys, you should read the book to figure, I really encourage you to do it because it does, Matt does talk about a lot, but, ultimately, do you think that's what happened to Emily? Is that she took her own?
100%. I mean, what are the odds of it not happening? What are the odds of someone killing her and putting her up there like that? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Matt would know.
I agree, but I know some people were asking, so I just wanted to.
And they'll say like, their case was, well, if it wasn't him, who else would it be? How would we know? You never developed any other suspects. The dogs go to a house. Lead them to a house 2 weeks apart. What do they even investigate the guy that lives there? Apparently not.
Sure. Well, and I mean, if we're talking about suspects, the one guy who says he saw her and it wasn't the right day, and the one guy who apparently is right across the street that has all the answers. I mean, to me, that seems a little suspicious if you're going to go down that road.
I don't. I did some for a little bit.
Well,
but
I understand,
I know
but
that it's not. They botched it. They missed her and they covered it up.
Oh, I don't disagree with you that. I'm just saying if for example, like if this Kramer guy still thinks that you did it, I'm like, you're if we're going down the list of potential suspects, he's like number one on my list. Really
creepy guy from across the street who was always looking, always would sit in that chair and look at her and had her every move all down all the time.
Yeah,
he's harmless. He's a harmless.
Oh, I know, but somebody like that where he's like, I know the date I last saw her, and I'm like, are you really sure you did? Because that's the kind of guy who gets it wrong is the guy who did it. That's
you can manipulate people's minds, and they got him thinking. They convinced him he was confused.
Yeah.
They manipulated his mind and got him. I'd love to heard all that. We did, that conversation when he switched it all up, but But they did. They convinced him. You know,
I believe that. We can't prove it, Connie, but you know that that's what happened, and I know that that's what happened. They convinced that.
Right.
Man.
I mean, I hate to use the word coached him, but that's pretty strong and unprofessional. But it almost something was really bad with that.
He strikes me as somebody who's very easy to suggest to.
For sure.
You don't necessarily have to lie to him, but you can get him to. You can kind of. You can herd him towards something.
As police, that I mean, he's all about. He's pro-establishment.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. He wants to. That also plays a factor into it. He's a suggestible person, but he also wants to help. He also likes the police. He wants to be seen as the good guy. I mean, there's all these things stack up to get him to, okay, yes, I did. And it's not necessarily something they had to sit down with him, like, listen, buddy, like, here's what we're going to do, and you're going to say this. It just all those factors just really kind of,
he didn't lie. They got him to they got him to admit that maybe he might have saw her on Sunday instead of Monday, which is reasonable. For an old guy, Emily always walked, always wore black. It could have been the day before, but the day before we weren't there. So it had to have been Monday. Yeah. So it just backfired on him. So
definitely.
Have you talked to your attorney, Diane, since this ended, Matt?
I sent her an email, and that's it.
So what do you think? What did you think of Diane, Connie?
Well, I thought she was a feisty, great attorney.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously helped Matt, but do I think, I've heard the comments online, he just got a great attorney that got him out. There was no evidence.
Mm-hmm.
There was no evidence. But I thought she was a good attorney, and she was passionate and professional, and she did her homework. I mean, I think Matt thought she hadn't done her homework much, and I'd be a little scared too if I was in jail and my attorney hadn't come to talk to me much. But right, Matt, you didn't talk to her much.
She memorized everything. I mean, everything. She literally memorized everything. If you're innocent and you can afford her, get her as an attorney.
Right,
she's all over it.
Didn't I read in your book where you were prior to the trial, you were a little nervous about thinking she wasn't prepared because she hadn't talked to you much.
Right.
But she was on the ball, man. She chewed everybody that came up there on the prosecutor's side. She just chewed them up and spit them out.
Well, actually, I how soon? And if I missed this in the book, Matt, how soon into the trial did you realize, like, okay, wait, these guys are on this? We're, obviously you're like, wait, these guys came ready to fight.
Yeah, within the first day or two. I just didn't. Like I said in the book, you don't know what they're gonna get, whether they'll understand it or not, because, like I said, I mean, they didn't need any evidence to arrest me. They didn't need any evidence to get a grand jury to indict me. They didn't need any evidence to prosecute me. Why would a jury need any evidence to find me guilty? So I was, even though it was all out there, I was just like, and none of this might even matter. I don't know. So I was right up until the end. I was just planning on the worst. So
they did not have enough evidence. They had nothing. So it should have never gone to trial.
They say it's really, really easy to get somebody indicted by grand jury. It's just because there's no one there. You would know that, Sean, right? It's fairly easy to get someone indicted.
A grand jury is a one-sided conversation,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you would just think that it would be a little harder. I mean, just, hey, this woman, we found this body. There's no one else around. Who else is it going to be? I guess that's good enough for a grand jury to get you indicted. I don't know.
Yeah. And this is a question from Joe Loy. How long did it take you to write the book? And did you have anybody help you out with it?
I didn't. I never did it before. And it took me about 4 months, and it was every day for about 6-7 hours a day. It wasn't that tough. It was, I just, I'm not the cleverest guy in the world, but it just
Mhm.
literally, it had been inside so long. I hadn't told anybody my story. No one on the phone, my lawyers,
Mhm.
my father, nobody knew the story. And it literally was inside me for 2 years, just waiting to get out. So I sat down and it was nothing to
Pour it
do.
out.
It just
It
poured
was
right.
probably very
Awesome.
therapeutic. It was
Yeah.
therapeutic for you, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes. Well, now I got my story out. It's I don't have to dwell on it. It's told. My side of things have been told. Yes, and it was very therapeutic. Yeah. Because the trial wasn't. you think you go to the trial and just tell that story? You obviously can't do that at a trial. There's none of that going on.
Yeah, no, I assume for you especially though, it's the trial's more like a car wreck. You know, all of a sudden it just happens, and then
Yeah, you don't.
well,
You
I
don't
made it,
know.
and you made it out, and that's all. You know, it happens all at once.
Now that I'm looking at it, I see your trade. It's a really cool system. It's really neat how it has its rules and there's reasons for it. I just wish it would happen for everyone, regardless how much money you have. I would it would be so we don't have to worry about people getting prosecuted for things they didn't do, but it happens. But
Yes.
In my case, it worked beautifully. I mean, because the truth came out. I mean, or the truth that they were trying to tell made it apparent that it wasn't real. What they were saying wasn't true. So yeah, it really works. The law is a real interesting thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's been a little while we've been going here, guys. You know, if there's anything else you guys want to talk about, certainly we can. But I think we're at a really good point. This has been so. This has just been amazing, and knowing you were coming on, Matt, I was looking forward to this, and this has been so great. And Connie, you know, you coming in here too. Once Matt told me you wanted to come on, I was just like, you can't beat this, especially letting you guys talk. This has been just listening to you guys talk alone
Thanks,
has
Don.
been amazing to listen
And
to.
thanks, Connie. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
welcome.
I think we might just, you know, for another 2 minutes or 3 minutes, guys, if you got questions, send something in. But yeah, I think you know, this is everybody's been blown away. You know,
Cool.
You
have a different kind of listener. Obviously, I've been reading the comments. They're some of them are funny, which is I like the humor. It's cool.
Yes. So yeah, this is I think we're at the point now where I think we're gonna call it a night, guys. Thank you everybody who attended, everybody who liked. Everybody has a question. Thank you so much. And actually, there's one set of questions I forgot about. And those are from people on locals. That's another thing I have where people can submit some questions here. And there was one question in particular. Somebody actually asked the question. Oh wait, yeah, Parallax already described it. But yeah, once the verdicts were read, you just said it was just, you know, you just completely, you know, yeah.
He probably breathed for the first time in 8 days.
Yes.
It was a release like you wouldn't believe. Just a complete release.
Yes.
Tension.
And then
it was the world literally flipped, went from not making sense to making sense. And it was just
Hey, that's an interesting one. Have you received an apology? That's a good question.
From anybody. Yeah. I know we talked about this a little earlier. Yeah, everybody just moved along like, oh well, and moved on to the next thing to get outraged about. So but yeah, that is it. I guess we'll end on this comment here. From That's a Shame. She's also an attorney. You know, thank you both. I was having a long week at work and this was inspiring. So
thank you.
Get out there and make the world a better place.
That's right.
Well, I know she does. So with that being said, everybody sent a super chat as well. Thank you so much, guys. And there's one more from Unhung Hero for $2. I read all of them because people put them up, but yes, for Unhung Hero for $2. There you go. And then and Gabby, I saw you here earlier. Gabby, I'm glad you're around. Hope you're feeling better. But with that said, everybody, thank you again tonight.
All right,
thank
Sean.
you,
Connie. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, guys.
Bye.
And
thanks, Sean. Bye, Matt.
Yeah.
All right.
And you know, remember, guys, until next time, you know, actually, I'm not even going to say it because you're one. Doesn't even matter. You're not
Don't
guilty.
talk to
That's all it is.
police.
Well, yes, don't talk to the police.
Don't.
Peace out.
Good night, everybody.
Later.